Hi everyone, it's Nigel Giam here, the lead GP training program director for the St Mary's scheme, and we are continuing our SCA interviews with successful ST3s. And I'm very, very happy to have one of my own here this evening, Amreek.
Yeah,
Welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this. How are you doing?
sure. Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good.
Glad to be on the other side of the exam.
Yeah, it is a challenge, of course. So Amreek and I go back some time, having taught Amreek for OSCEs, which was how long ago was it now, Amreek?
Probably is in my third year at medical school, I think.
Oh,
So
goodness me.
we
Time
have a long
flies.
history. Yeah,
Time flies when you're having fun, and Amreek is one of our shining stars at St Mary's. So I thought we'd kind of just kick off really, thinking about your approach to the three domains and your game changes. You did
yeah,
very well. You scored very, very highly on the actual SCA, which was fantastic. Because I know you had some fear and apprehension about the exam, as many people do. But it
yeah,
is attainable, of course, with the right strategy. What would be your game changes for the data gathering? What do you think made the difference for you?
yeah. I think it's just about starting very early. So as soon as I came into ST3, that's when I was like, I need to know how to plan my year.
Yeah.
So I actually did your course 7 months before the exam.
Yes, it was way before.
Um,
Yes, yeah,
yeah, so basically, what that allowed me to do is to develop my skills naturally
yeah.
rather than kind of forcing or cramming because it's not something you can cram
No,
for.
absolutely not.
So essentially, the what I did was something that was different to what I used to do, was kind of following the narrative.
Yeah,
Um, you know, being very flexible with my history taking. So
yes,
I think probably in ST2, I had my own agenda. I was kind
yeah,
of doing following the system, doing the
yeah,
red flags,
yeah,
but you need to kind of turn that on its head and follow the
absolutely.
patient narrative
Yeah,
and kind of essentially leave the medical part towards the end. That's what I
yeah,
was doing, the
yeah,
data gathering,
yeah, yeah. I
and
I
kind of
absolutely agree. I think in the data gathering, it is very much about following the cues and the
mm,
narrative. We talk a lot about case priming. Perhaps for our audience, what was your understanding of case priming and how did you apply it?
yeah. So that was something that took me a bit of time to get to understand fully,
Yeah.
but essentially on the exam day, I would read the brief and kind of see what is the nub of the case here. So I would
Mm,
have an action plan. So I'd kind of, if it's given an example of a condition or a
mm,
symptom, then I would kind of write down the the key questions I need to ask. I'd write
mm,
down what management options I may want to do.
mhm.
Um, that was kind of my main game plan, and that kind of freed up mental space to
Yeah,
actually listen to the patient
yeah, good.
and be curious because that was a lot of my feedback before the exam was I wasn't being curious
Curious
enough, I
enough.
wasn't exploring the cues enough.
Yeah.
So in order to have that mental space, I think it was important to, make sure that I knew the medical red flags like
Yeah.
without thinking.
Without
So
thinking.
then,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. But that kind of
and
medicine bit, as you say, you can kind of, I suppose, think about that prospectively so that you, as you mentioned, follow up the cues. And the cues are the king queen of the consultation because it's a
of
standardized
course,
exam. When we start thinking about clinical management, what was your approach to this? Because as you say, you leave the kind of medical management to later. And actually, what we tend to do is we want to focus on the symptom and the diagnosis. So
yeah,
how do we kind of approach that section?
yeah. So it was about making it kind of a discussion with the patient essentially. So it's useful to find out what they know if you're thinking about a condition, find out what they know,
Yeah,
fill in the gaps.
yeah,
Particularly, sometimes you come across lots of conditions when you're training,
yeah,
and it can be difficult to put it into patient terms. So I used
yeah.
to read kind of NHS leaflets
Yes.
or patient information leaflets just to simplify it right down,
Yeah.
and then I guess start with giving options. So
Yeah.
start with the basics first. So like things, common sense things,
Yes.
which are not medical,
Yes.
and then kind of build the other things from there.
Yeah. 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 And I suppose this aspect of giving options is key in the sense of it has to be an informed choice, doesn't it? So rather than just giving a
Of
list of
course.
options, we want to start thinking about, I suppose, what the patient can do for themselves and then what we might be able to offer if, for example, it's a chronic disease type
Yeah.
case, rather than kind of launching in with medications, thinking about
Mm.
actually what the patient's agenda might be and how we readdress that. And I suppose that now brings us on to relating to others. I know that when we certainly did some work together, we did a lot on negotiation skills.
Yeah.
Um, How important do you think that is when it comes to an exam like this, being a good negotiator?
I think it's really important. I think you want the patient to be on your side from the beginning. So,
Yeah,
if they give you any room for empathy or building rapport, you've got to jump on that.
yeah,
Kind of full force, full energy, which you kind
yeah,
of promote in your course as well.
yes,
So one way that was something I used to struggle with as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
particularly at the end of the day or
yeah,
when you're at the stress of the exam.
yeah,
So how I practiced that day to day was I would kind of give the patient with my full attention in clinic. So I
mhm,
would kind of keep away from the computer,
yeah,
just look at them, try and engage them. Don't worry about the clock at the beginning,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
just try and build that day to day. So then when it comes to the exam, it's kind of easy in that way,
Yeah,
if
much
that
more
makes sense.
natural.
Yeah, and
Much
more
more natural
natural.
because I know that I mean you're such a nice guy, but you had difficulty saying no at times to some of these patient
Yeah,
agendas, and I think the exam tests you in quite a lot of that, doesn't it? How to say no, but in a nice, firm, and fair way. But obviously
yeah,
try and find a middle ground, an alternative solution, so you can still stay on side. Well, I mean that's very, very useful for our listeners. And what's the plan now? Everything's going to come to a close. I won't be
yeah.
teaching you for much longer. You'll be glad to know. Just a month or so left. What's the plans post
Um,
CCT?
I think I've got to find something where I come back on one of your courses. Really, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm sure
I've got to find
I'm sure we
something.
can find find something for you. We'll make something up.
Yeah, the fun thing about at the beginning of kind of CCT and being a GP, the options are kind of limitless.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
We
don't know.
definitely we'll definitely have you back at some point for sure. As
Yeah,
excellent. Amreek, thank you so much, and I'll be seeing you shortly at HDR. We don't have many left, but
yeah.
thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.